We're kicking things off, as we always do this time of the week, with Vicki McKenna and CultureCast. Vicki, very good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Looking incredibly youthful in white. We like to see that. How are you feeling today?
I should have gone with camo. I don't know. I'm just still swooning over the genius of the State of the Union speech. So, just
Lord.
give me time to bask in it, feel good. It's almost like soaking in a hot bath of Epsom salts.
I must ask this
Relaxing.
question. After the speech, did you go get him?
Did I go get him? After the speech, I poured myself another amber lager and contemplated the wisdom of the words.
Yes. Joe Biden, a president for our time and for all time. Well, we have
unity.
We have an update. A couple weeks ago, we did, I thought, a very disturbing story about Grace Shira, a young girl, very vivacious. I think she's about 19, 20 years old, if I remember, who loved, she happened to be Down syndrome, but she had a great life. She had a very fulfilling life. She got sick, went to the doctors with COVID, and rather than treat her, they basically starved her and refused to give her water. And so now you have the parents of Grace Shira really trying to push back against this. And tell us the latest update on the story.
Well, and just so to refresh people's memories, Grace Shira had Down syndrome. She was admitted for COVID. Eventually, her father, who was her guardian, was removed from her room because he had COVID. Another family member was acting as her medical power of attorney, and she was unable to get into the room as the process to push a heavy dose of morphine had been begun. So what had eventually happened was a sedative cocktail was given to Grace that was necessarily going to result in her death. She was declared do not resuscitate without any permission from her actual guardians. Or people who were responsible for her care. So the update today is that Scott Shira, her dad, started a foundation, OurAmazingGrace.net, and took to the online fundraising platforms to seed some money. This is an organization that's intended to be a nonprofit, as a 501c whatever designation, and to raise some money to help other families that might be in this situation. GoFundMe shut him down. Just shut him down. Called it a prohibited content policy violation. I asked Mr. Shira yesterday what that meant. He has no idea, but this is yet another example of a national, large national fundraising platform deciding that apparently, a Christian message and questioning whether or not hospitals are making the right decision and defense of a Down syndrome girl is acceptable. GoFundMe says, we're not going to have your kind on our platform.
Geez, well, this all takes place here in the Fox Valley of Wisconsin, where I live. It's a little bit north of where you live, Vicki, and all the way between Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and up to Appleton, Wisconsin. Appleton, Wisconsin is where this hospital is. The St. Elizabeth's Hospital. We should definitely tell you their name. St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Appleton is where this miscare took place. And so, interesting, with some of the money that Mr. Shira had received, they put up a series of billboards up 41 North, the highway, telling the story of Grace. They're really quite moving, and that's what he was doing with this money. The father, he's not grandiosing himself. He's not spending it on selfish things. He's trying to get the story of Grace out, and he wants to help other people. You interviewed him on your show. Over and above the cancellation of the GoFundMe, what's his state of mind, and what else does he want to be able to do?
He wants to help other families. He wants to make sure that nobody runs into the same situation where they feel like they've been foreclosed for medical decisions. I think just sort of a general support as well of parents who have Down syndrome or other disabled kids. But I think mostly this is about getting people an opportunity to have a platform to share their stories. There are dozens and dozens, at least, similar stories, perhaps not related, directly to Down syndrome victims, but certainly other people who have felt as if their authority was ignored, or their care was substandard minimally, or their parents or loved ones' care was substandard in Wisconsin hospitals based on COVID treatment protocols. So I think he's also just wanting to help people get their stories out there by providing a website and a platform that allows them to post a story and have it be instantly available for other people.
Well, this having the story of COVID being the number one issue for Democrats going all the way back to World War I, right? All of a sudden, it's now convenient with elections looming in the fall for the Democrats to have waved the white flag and gone from being obsessive about COVID to completely forgetting all about it. Here's my question to you.
Yeah.
Is there going to be any investigations whatsoever of the hospitals? All of those hospitals who started branding motorcycle deaths, COVID deaths, all that labeling COVID so they can get more money from the feds. Do you think there's ever going to be a reckoning come in this country for this kind of thing?
I don't. I'd like to think there will be, maybe in sort of a case by case basis, but I don't think there's going to be a reckoning. I don't. I think they're going to get away with the lies. This isn't the first time that government incentives have caused for-profit hospitals to make decisions not based on what's best for the patient, but based on what's best for the bottom line. I hope that there, if the power base turns over in the midterm elections, that there can be some hearings and that there can be some accountability, at least for the people providing the incentives for hospitals to behave this poorly. I would like to see people collect all their stories in one location so you can scroll through them and say, it's not just me. This is not a problem that is isolated. It is a problem that, as I have learned in the last few weeks, is more widespread than I thought.
After the break, Vicki, we have another really important story from a school in Wisconsin. I'll see you on the other side. All right, back now with Vicki McKenna for CultureCast. And Vicki, on the flip side, we're going to talk about Suring, Wisconsin. This is in Oconto County, Wisconsin. A district attorney has charged the superintendent of that school with 6 counts of false imprisonment. The charges stem from the search of 6 students who were asked to strip down to their underwear to be searched for vape cartridges. Talk about this.
Oh, my. Well, first, I think it's interesting that it was just false imprisonment that she's being charged with. Actually, first we should say I'm shocked she's being charged. And that is because, educrats get away with this kind of nonsense all the time. But she's being charged with false imprisonment. What about the strip search? That is not part of the charges. But be that as it may, yeah, this woman, I can't imagine what's in her mind, thinks that it's appropriate to make kids get naked and prove they don't have any vaping devices. I mean, you have got to be, I don't even know how to explain this except that administrators and educators have gotten so comfortable believing that they supplant parental authority that it likely didn't seem controversial to her at all.
District Attorney Edward Burke Jr. says the superintendent, whose name is Kelly Casper, directed the children into a small bathroom off of the nurse's office. Burke says Casper told the children to remove their clothing, and she stood in the doorway. Quote, once the children removed their clothes, any opportunity they had to escape would have subjected them to further shame and embarrassment. This is pretty interesting. I mean, it's a tremendous violation of the rights of these children. I got a couple of rather sarcastic questions to ask you. So if these had been transgender kids who were forced to strip down this way, do you think A, the principal would have done it in a million years? And B, wouldn't she already have been fired?
Absolutely true. What if these were black students?
Right.
What if these were, anything other than kids with white privilege? So yes, number one, she would have already been fired. I mean, she's facing 6 charges, 6 counts?
Yep.
She still has a job. Now, maybe she gets beyond this. I mean, I have no idea. But again, what it suggests is that an administrator does not have any qualms whatsoever about violating the privacy of these kids. I mean, in a way that will be interpreted as sexual without thinking that this is something that you need to clear with a parent. This is with no crime being committed, mind you. I mean, vaping in school is a violation of school rules, but it isn't a crime. No one's getting hauled off to the pokey for having the jewel in their back pocket. And so it is just, I think what it really testifies to is that people who aren't these children's parents, guardians, have assumed a role of authority even in excess, I think, of what we tolerate from parents. What if parents did that to their kids in public? I don't even know if parents would escape criticism for that kind of move.
If it were in public, those kids would go to Child Protective Services. It would be effectively a kind of sexual abuse against your own children.
I don't want to make this I don't want to go too far, down the road, down a side road here. But I mean, think about what you're hearing about Kettle Moraine School District and Madison School District and Appleton School District and Green Bay School District. You have these administrators declaring that children who declare themselves transgender will not have that information shared with parents. So again, when you think about this, it doesn't really seem like a great stretch for someone who thinks it's okay to encourage a little kid to declare themselves the opposite sex and obliterate, family stability, to saying, drop trow and show me your vapes. It doesn't really seem that far away.
No, and what also surprises me is in such a permissive school, sexually, personally, in terms of bodily integrity, such radically permissive schools, they would never be searching for anything. If this was cannabis instead of vaping, do you think they'd have gone off it the same way? I mean, I think they would have been much more sympathetic, and I don't think they would have made them strip. It's vaping, right? What passes for contraband in public schools now? It's the kind of thing.
Vaping blows my mind.
Exactly.
Because vaping is what's replaced the cigarette smokers in the bathroom.
That's right.
You have vapors now, and the vapor disappears. You don't smell the residual stink of cigarettes. It's safer than cigarettes. I mean, is it optimal and ideal? No. Should you permit kids to have vapes in school? I mean, just talking about the vaping issue. I vape, for heaven's sakes. And the answer is no, you don't want to have those kids have vapes in school. But really, I mean, Duke, we're Gen X. Back in the day when kids would have been trying to sneak a smoke inside the boys' room or the girls' room, the worst you would have gotten was detention.
Right.
Just saying.
That's right. And we are being told now by the public schools that the teachers and especially the administrators are not just the surrogate parents. When the kids are on campus, they are the acting parents.
Right.
This shows you the kind of judgment the new parent has, and it's really kind of creepy. Maybe there needs to be a CPS dedicated to following exclusively Child Protective Services, a branch following the surrogate parents of these teachers and educators. Wouldn't that change things real fast if you had people's jobs on the line?
If they wanted to kick the police out of the schools and replace them with social workers, how about social workers from Child Protective Services protecting kids from creepy, politically motivated, agenda motivated adults who want to turn them into freak shows?
And that means if you got a 40-year-old teacher who's teaching a 6-year-old the ins and outs, no pun intended, of anal intercourse, that's a reason to take that child away from that school and that teacher. Well, we just solved that problem. Vicki,
that would make sense.
It's great having you here. We fixed the problem. No one's going to listen. All right, back with you next week. Enjoy your week.